Deep within the dense forests of northern Europe lies a forgotten secret from 1689, when a devastating plague swept through the unsuspecting and vulnerable local populations. The isolated settlement was intended to serve as a secure military outpost, but it quickly became a terrible quarantine zone for those infected with the highly contagious disease. Historical records regarding this specific location remain surprisingly sparse, suggesting a deliberate attempt by ruling authorities to erase the entire tragic event from our collective human memory forever. Only a few scattered documents hidden deep within royal archives hint at the sheer scale of the disaster that unfolded behind the heavy wooden gates of the outpost. The winter of 1689 was exceptionally brutal, trapping the terrified residents inside their makeshift homes, while the unseen sickness slowly spread from one family to another. Medical knowledge during this dark era was extremely limited, relying on outdated theories and superstitious practices that offered no real protection against the aggressive nature of the pathogen. Desperate physicians wore crude leather masks filled with aromatic herbs, falsely believing that these fragrant materials would purify the corrupted air and keep the deadly infection at bay. Despite their frantic efforts, the death toll continued to rise at an alarming rate, overwhelming the small community and forcing the surviving leaders to make impossible, agonizing choices. The local graveyard quickly reached its maximum capacity, leaving no consecrated ground for the overwhelming number of fresh victims who perished during the freezing nights of late December. It was then that the outpost commander issued a chilling decree, ordering the immediate creation of mass burial pits far beyond the protective walls of the central settlement. These new burial sites were dug away from public view, hidden among the ancient pine trees, where the shadows grew long and the frozen earth was incredibly unyielding. Workers labored under the cover of darkness, moving bodies in absolute silence to prevent panic from completely destroying the fragile remnants of order within the dying military camp. No wooden crosses or engraved stone markers were placed over these raw trenches, ensuring that the identities of the fallen would be swallowed entirely by the surrounding wilderness. The primary motivation behind this anonymity was fear, because authorities worried that marking the graves would permanently brand the land as cursed and deter future colonization efforts nearby. As the terrible spring finally approached, the plague began to naturally subside, but the psychological damage inflicted upon the surviving inhabitants proved to be permanent and deeply profound. The military eventually abandoned the outpost altogether, burning the infected structures to the ground and leaving only the cold ash to blanket the painful memories of the dead. For over 3 centuries, the forest slowly reclaimed the cleared land, wrapping its thick roots around the hidden bones and burying the terrible truth under layers of moss. Local folklore passed down through countless generations spoke in hushed whispers about a haunted clearing in the woods where nothing would grow and unnatural silence blanketed the area. Villagers actively avoided traveling near the ruined outpost, believing that the restless spirits of the unburied victims still wandered through the mist, searching for their lost personal identities. It was not until the late 20th century that a small team of dedicated historical archaeologists finally decided to investigate the persistent rumors surrounding this mysterious geographic location. Armed with ground-penetrating radar and faded topographic maps, the researchers pushed through the dense undergrowth, hoping to uncover physical evidence of the legendary 1689 plague. The initial soil surveys revealed a series of unnatural depressions in the terrain, suggesting large-scale human intervention that perfectly aligned with the dark stories of mass burials. Excavation work began with extreme caution, as the team slowly removed layers of compacted soil to avoid disturbing any potential historical artifacts resting near the fragile human remains. Within just a few days of careful digging, the scientists uncovered the first skeletal fragments, confirming that the chilling legends of the unmarked graves were indeed tragic reality. The bodies had been placed in hurried, chaotic arrangements, demonstrating the sheer desperation and immense fear experienced by the survivors who were tasked with burying their fallen neighbors. Chemical analysis of the teeth and bones provided crucial insights into the severe malnutrition and extreme physical stress endured by the victims before the deadly illness claimed them. Traces of the ancient pathogen DNA were miraculously preserved within the dental pulp, allowing modern microbiologists to sequence the exact strain responsible for the devastating historical outpost massacre. This incredible scientific breakthrough proved that the outbreak was a highly localized mutation of the bubonic plague, which spread with terrifying speed through the confined wooden military barracks. Among the dirt and bones, researchers also found small personal trinkets, such as simple copper rings and carved wooden beads secretly buried alongside the victims by grieving relatives. These tiny artifacts offer a heartbreaking glimpse into the humanity of those who died, reminding us that they were not just statistics, but real individuals with complete lives. The total absence of weapons in the grave pits clearly indicates that this was not a battlefield massacre, but a quiet slaughter carried out by a microscopic enemy. Further exploration of the surrounding forest revealed the charred foundations of the original outpost buildings, confirming the historical accounts of the military intentionally burning the settlement upon departure. Ash deposits found deep within the soil contain melted fragments of iron tools and shattered glass bottles, illustrating the immense heat of the fire that consumed the camp. The ruthless efficiency of the cover-up strategy is truly remarkable, considering the primitive communication methods and limited resources available to the regional authorities during that distant century. By entirely erasing the geographical location from official maps, the government successfully prevented any potential public panic that might have destabilized the fragile political landscape of the region. However, this calculated erasure also meant that thousands of innocent men, women, and children were denied the fundamental dignity of being remembered by their descendants and the world. The archaeological team meticulously catalogued every single bone fragment, ensuring that each discovered victim would finally receive the respectful attention that they had been violently denied in life. Forensic reconstruction techniques have allowed artists to recreate the faces of several victims, bridging the massive gap of time and bringing us face to face with the past. Looking into the simulated eyes of a young plague victim forces the modern observer to confront the fragile nature of human existence and the terrifying power of nature. As more remains are slowly brought to the surface, the true magnitude of the tragedy becomes undeniably clear, painting a grim picture of suffering isolated in the darkness. Current estimates suggest that over 500 individuals are buried within these hidden trenches, representing almost the entire population of the military outpost and its surrounding civilian settlement. The ongoing excavation process is deliberately slow, requiring infinite patience and immense funding to guarantee that the site is treated with the utmost scientific rigor and profound respect. Historians are now working tirelessly to cross-reference the archaeological data, with surviving regional tax records hoping to identify the specific families who vanished during the dark winter. Matching a name to a nameless skeleton is a monumental task, but it represents a necessary act of historical justice for those whose lives were deliberately wiped away. The site of the unmarked graves has recently been protected by heritage laws, preventing any future commercial development from destroying this vital piece of our shared human history. A small memorial stone has been erected near the edge of the forest, serving as a quiet tribute to the lost souls resting beneath the cold, dark earth. Visitors occasionally travel to this remote location, leaving modest floral tributes and lighting simple candles to pierce the heavy gloom that still seems to linger among the trees. Standing in the silent clearing, one can almost hear the faint echoes of the past, whispering through the rustling pine needles and the cold, biting winter wind today. The story of the outpost is a sobering reminder that history is often written by the survivors who possess the power to shape the narrative to their advantage. True history, however, lies buried in the dirt, waiting patiently for those brave enough to dig through the layers of deception and uncover the uncomfortable realities hidden below. The unmarked graves of 1689 will forever stand as a silent testament to the devastating consequences of disease, isolation, and the brutal pragmatism of human governance. We must learn from these forgotten tragedies, ensuring that we face our modern crises with compassion and transparency, rather than burying our victims under a blanket of silence. The scientific investigation will continue for many years, slowly revealing new details about the daily lives and sudden deaths of the individuals trapped within the doomed military outpost. Every newly discovered artifact adds a tiny piece to the complex historical puzzle, helping researchers construct a more accurate and comprehensive understanding of this incredibly dark historical chapter. The dedication of the archaeological team honors the memory of the dead, proving that human curiosity and empathy can eventually overcome even the most deliberate attempts at erasure. As the sun sets over the ancient forest, casting long shadows across the memorial stone, a profound sense of peace finally seems to settle over the troubled landscape. The restless spirits of the plague victims have been acknowledged, their stories have been told, and their existence has been permanently recorded in the annals of modern history. Though their names may remain forever lost to time, their collective suffering and their enduring legacy will never again be hidden in the forgotten depths of the wilderness. The unmarked graves have finally surrendered their deepest secrets, reminding humanity that truth cannot be buried forever, and that the past will always find a way to speak. This concludes our investigation into the dark shadows of history, urging us all to remember the forgotten souls and cherish the fragile light of life we hold today.